Welcome back to the Creative Endeavor Podcast. This is the podcast bringing you inspiring stories from creative professionals from around the world. It's real conversations with real artists. And I'm Andrew Tischler, and how cool it is to have your company here once again. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode with Carla Grace. Now, I've had Carla Grace on the show a couple of times already. Every time she's here, she just drops some art business gold. So I'll give you a minute to put that coffee on, but go and get yourself a notebook as well. There's no doubt you're going to get something out of this episode. This will be an episode that will not only motivate, but inspire. Now, if you haven't already listened to the previous episodes with Carla Grace and you're not following her on social media, you better fix that up quick. She can be found on Instagram at Carla_Grace_art. Carla really does specialize in wildlife painting. She does some amazing acrylic paintings in a really beautiful, detailed style. Her works are highly sought after by an international audience, and she's pretty much selling most of what she produces. But she's also ventured into prints and some really exquisite limited editions. But there was something else that she revealed in this podcast about a brand new product that she's developed, and I've never heard of anything like this. It was quite extraordinary. I also wanted to ask her, because in the time since our previous conversations, she's had a couple of kids, and I wanted to ask her how she finds that work-life balance. You know, I myself have just recently become a father. My son's about 6 months old now, and it just turned life upside down. It's awesome. It's the coolest journey ever, but I must admit it is difficult sometimes finding that balance, so I wanted to pick her brain about that as well. Now, there is a video version of this podcast, and the only place to find that is on my Patreon page. In addition to the video version of the podcast, I also release critique videos, Q&A videos, time lapses, as well as reference packs for my followers there, and access to the exclusive Facebook community. It's only $5 a month, so if that sounds like you, then I'll see you over on Patreon. I think you'll be shocked the amount of content that I share with my patrons there for just $5 a month. And as I said, you'll get the video version of this podcast. And there's a couple of visuals here that you might want to see. Okay, without further ado, here's Carla Grace and the Creative Endeavor. Carla Grace, welcome back to the Creative Endeavor Podcast. What a pleasure to have you back.
It's awesome to be back. I enjoyed the last time, so I look forward to what we chat about this time.
Cool. Well, a few huge life changes for us in the meantime. The last time we spoke, I think you just had Emily. Emily was just a little baby at that time.
She was in the oven. Oh, no, wait, that was the first time we spoke.
The first time, yeah.
The second time was a little short one. That one, she was a few months old. I don't know. She joined us.
She even joined in the conversation.
She joined us for part of the conversation. Yeah.
Awesome. So now you have your second child, and Will is his name?
Will. Yep. William.
Fantastic. So let's just kick things off with where you're at now with your creative journey, because I imagine that being a mother, and from seeing your social media posts and following you on Instagram, your kids seem to be very much part of your creative world. Maybe let's kick things off there, because I hear so many people going, oh, I can't find that work-life balance, but you're somebody that's out there just doing it. You seem to have found your feet with this.
Oh, I think, well, first accepting that actually finding that elusive work-life balance, that it's actually a myth. It doesn't exist. It's more just, I think, having the adaptability in your day-to-day routine where you don't try and achieve as much, but then anything that you do achieve on top of it is a bonus and you're just happy to do that. So Emily now goes to daycare 4 days a week, and Will has just started daycare 2 days a week. He doesn't like it as much as Emily did at the start, so he's a little bit rocky. He's actually home today when he was meant to be at daycare because he's a bit sick. So even though we do have that routine now, it's every day. You don't know how it's going to go. So being flexible and adaptable around what they end up dictating about the day is, I think, the first stage to the balance, because it's the pursuit of balance. It's just every day is different. So yeah. So how's that going for me? When I do have Will and or Emily at home, I make sure that I pivot our entire day around the studio. Even if we're just playing in the studio, I'm there, I'm around my work. So I'm more likely to pick up a brush or do some email or video editing or do some marketing. So just being present in the space is making it more possible for me to get more done in a day. And even if I end up just helping Emily with her painting, enabling her to do some of her work, there's still some activity in the studio. So they're around the work life that I'm trying to live, and that's a norm for them. So when I say mummy's working today, then they're like, okay, we just go hang out in the studio, and they just sort of move around me as I work, or I move around them more like. And yeah, it's just fitting it in around the studio. Even if I don't touch anything, at least they're in that environment, and it's not all about them. I think at the end of the day, I'm not trying to fit my life around them. They're fitting into my life in a very physical, literal sense. They're in my studio on the days that I want to be working, even if I don't get anything done. So it's all about setting a pattern, I think, with the kids, and then they understand, they get it.
Fair enough. There's some good things for me to, remember when Hugo becomes, old enough. And
Yeah.
I look forward to having that studio time with him. And a point of fact, you're actually reminding me of the way I grew up. My dad had me in his studio while he was working. Um,
Nice.
I remember he actually, true story, he had an industrial unit. And my daycare was next door at the time. But there were some days where, and he must have been, from memory, he must have been working over weekends as well when the daycare wasn't open. Because I remember being like, there was a mattress and a plywood box in a corner somewhere, and I remember being in his
Right.
studio, and Dad would be like, "Okay, nap time." I'd be like, I still
Go
remember
over
being a little kid. Yeah, go over
there.
there. But I had all kinds of creative projects and stuff to work on,
Mhm.
and far out must have rubbed off on me, I guess. But it's
Yeah,
important to involve them in what you're doing, isn't it?
absolutely. Yeah. And it's important, I think, as well, that they know it's not all about them.
Hmm.
I think it's very easy as well as the primary caregiver. You just sort of, what do you want to do today? Let's do it. Keep you happy. So yeah, I've also just come off. So Will, unfortunately, has absolutely no consistency in his sleep. He
Mm.
has sleep regression quite regularly. So we lose his ability to drift into the next sleep cycle, whenever he has a milestone, developmental milestone. So I couldn't, like Emily, just structure my routine again around, as she progresses through, as she ages,
Mm.
her sleep adapts. So we have none of that with Will. And so I just couldn't, I was so exhausted,
Mm.
and I just couldn't work. So until he started daycare 3 weeks ago, I had to take maternity leave. So I haven't been producing artwork the past 4 or 5, I don't know, 5 months, 5, 6 months. So
Oh my
I feel
goodness.
like I'm just coming out of this massive lull. And now that he started daycare again, I have that like little breath of
Yeah.
ability to actually focus on something. And so that's why I started doing these little mini acrylic series that I've started doing.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll just let folks know, if they're listening to the audio version of this, there is an exclusive video version that's available to my patrons on my Patreon page, in addition to the video version of the podcast, which you're gonna want to watch. Come on, seriously. You're going to get exclusive Q&As and critiques and time lapses and all sorts of other good stuff, and access to the exclusive community over on Facebook. So if that sounds like you, then sign up on my Patreon page. It's just $5 a month. And you get to see inside Carla Grace's studio and the painting that she's about to show us. Go for it.
So
Little
this is
plug
one
there.
I finished yesterday.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
wow.
fantastic. So these little mini acrylics I do in 5 hours.
No,
And
stop it. Stop it. You're hurting my feelings. That is
so I
incredible.
try.
Please hold that back up. Please hold that back up. 5 hours? Like, you are so to describe your style, and I hope I'm not going to mischaracterize you here and really make you hang up on me, but I consider you like a hyper-realistic photorealist when it comes to wildlife painting. Is that fair?
I wouldn't call it hyper realistic. I think I go for the realistic thing rather than trying to focus on every little detail. So like with these ones,
it's extraordinary.
The details there, but the accuracy to the reference photo isn't there. So I think that's why it works so well, is I have a deep understanding for what makes them look the way they look. And so I found that efficiency comes from confidence rather than fast brushwork. And so I will always be able to paint something much more successfully in a shorter time frame if I've painted it before, and it is something that I understand the layer process, I understand the color mixes because I've already done it before, and I know what the trouble areas are and I know how to fix them.
Okay,
and so that's
pause. Hang on a second. Okay, I'm sorry to break your flow, but when you say that, like when you say that, I kind of, something goes in my mind, and the inner angsty art student goes, well, doesn't that make the process boring if you've been there before and you've done this before? Doesn't that leach all the spontaneity and creativity out of this thing that you're painting?
I thought that it would. But it's actually very rewarding because I only allow myself 5 hours to do it. So I'm on my toes the whole time. There's no like, oh, do I change this? There's none of that lagging search for the creative interpretation of it. It's just, you're doing it, and it's often such an interrupted process because I do these around the kids, and that's why I started doing them, because I wanted to have something to show at the end of the day. And that's why I started doing, okay, maybe I can do smaller paintings in a more efficient time frame. And it's just, it sort of grew from there, and it's just become a slowly more confident process, working more efficiently, like actually thinking ahead and deciding what my order of layer is going to be, and then sticking to that. Because if I rush the process, if I try and do it really, really quickly, I'm going to end up going over the work that I've done because the brush work is sloppy, or the colors and the layers and the glazing hasn't really worked. So instead of working really fast, I'm just working more deliberately. And that's been exciting rather than wait, because I don't really work alongside inspiration. For me, if I did that, it would be a painting a year because I'm so tired all the time, and I'm doing so many different things. I'm not inspired to paint, like the physical act of painting. The inspiration feeds my ideas for like a body of work. And maybe I have inspiration when I'm planning the artwork, but the actual physical act of painting, it's not an inspired process. There's no like glowing light bulb in my brain that just fills up with energy when I'm working. I'm here to do a job, and I get that done, hopefully, by the end of the day. And the reward for me is seeing something achieved at the end of the day. So I get a lot of intrinsic value from a completed painting, especially, or a completed section, or like these little mini ones, like a whole painting that's actually finished. So that's why I started doing that, because I wasn't able to achieve much in my usual time frame because of having this new part of my life.
Yeah. And I've got to apologize to all the parents out there for even thinking this
Mm,
thought. Because before I was a father, I was kind of going, oh, come on, just get on with it. It can't be that bad. But
mm.
and I'm going to say right
I'm
now,
guilty too.
I'm very blessed. My wife, my darling wife Rachel, like, she is with Hugo 24/7, and she's allowed me the space to be able to do what I do. But
Mm,
she was an integral other half to this business, and you know. There are some days where she just looks at me at the end of the day, just completely bleary eyed, and just going, I haven't done anything today but have this thing hang off me like a koala bear all day, just
yeah.
constantly. And he hasn't been to sleep yet. And he's, and and he gets away with it too, because he's so dang cute. But the thing is that people don't know, if they haven't actually been there and been a parent,
Mm,
that you've got this thing that is a time leech attached to you
mm,
and needs you 24/7. That's
yeah.
extraordinary. So what you've done is you fit in and you've adapted to this new situation and created
Mm,
something incredible. I find that really interesting as well, that you're not inspired to paint. You're engaging that inspiration with an overall big picture, going, okay, I'm inspired now. Let's plan out this body of work. Let's do this whole thing,
mm,
big picture approach. And then you're just treating this as a job. I got a time window. Let's get on with it.
yeah.
I hear that so much, and maybe this is a holdover as well from my art school days. That, oh no, I need to feel in the mood to paint. I need to be
Mm,
inspired to paint, because my art comes from some, deep-seated spiritual, awakening or whatever. And so when I'm in the mood, for me, it's a job too. I'm not
yeah.
sure many people realize that you know, if you don't paint, you
Mm.
don't the bills don't get paid.
You don't eat. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's especially, I think, when you're so tired, it's you just mind over matter and you do it,
Mhm.
because otherwise it'll never happen. If I waited for the day where I had the best amount of sleep and I went for this wonderful run down along the beach, and I got home and my entire being was just bubbling with this creative energy, if I waited for that to be every day, how exhausted would I be, first of all, like from this constant high of creative energy? But now I've got this ability to just do it. Like, I feel so much more empowered that I'm in a place where I can just create regardless of situation around me. And the only thing I can't do though is if I haven't slept, it's not going to happen.
Mhm. Yeah,
I do need to
yeah.
sleep to do it, but I still have that ability. I know I can work regardless of whether or not. So I'm not waking up thinking, am I going to paint today? Is today going to be that day? It's
Mhm.
just, it is that day because that's what I've enabled myself with.
Right, right. And
Mm.
so with the paintings that you done, I mean, have you got another little painting that you can show us there? Have you got another little?
I've got a little owl. Yeah.
Cool. I love this.
So I hadn't painted this particular owl before. So
Oh
it's
wow.
like if you compared it to the painting of the kookaburra, which
Mhm.
I've done kookaburras before, the level of detail in one versus the other, like you
Mm.
can see, if you look close enough, you can see that one is possibly more confident than the other. That
Okay.
just simply comes from having done kookaburras before, and I haven't done the barred owl before, but this is another little one. And
Beautiful.
these are all commissions. So that's
Mm.
also another element, is that I don't usually do commissions because it's someone else's idea. At least when it's my idea, there is that initial attachment to it that drives the project. When it's someone else's idea,
Mhm.
I'm relying on an external factor such as payment for the commission to
Mm.
drive that. So a lot of artists, they say, oh, I don't feel like I'm charging enough. If you're not charging enough for a commission, you don't have the right drive to get the same effect that you would have when you have your own inspiration to create an original painting.
Mm.
So it becomes a bit tricky to find that balance. until you've been doing it for a while, then you can really find where you're at with that part of getting that inspiration and motivation to do a commission.
Brilliant. That's really, it's really amazing. I'm going to circle commissions because I want to come back to that and talk to you about that, because I'll tell you right now, from the last, if people are hearing this for the first time and you haven't already gone back and listened to the other 2 episodes that we had with Carla Grace, and please go and have a listen to those episodes after you've listened to this one to give a little bit more context and color to this. But I'll tell you right now, Carla, there were several aha moments for me as I was talking to you the previous times in regards to the business side of art. And straight away, I changed a few of my policies and changed a few of my practices as well. And they actually really did help, namely with prints, limited edition prints. That was a really interesting one. And the way you had put the care and the time into how you presented something to the client made this thing feel special, consequently making your client feel special and valued and honored and respected. I love that. That was something that was actually missing from my practice. So I want to come back to that, and also just come back to the marketing of it, because I get a lot of questions on, marketing oneself as as an artist. But let's go back just briefly, because I'm quite interested in this as a topic as a whole, again, with the balance thing, the scheduling thing, the routine thing. I'm struggling right now. I'll tell you right now, to find a routine. Like I play this game. It's normally it's the orange green game. Okay. I'm going to show you my thing. I'm not even going to show you here's last week's. Okay. I ran out of orange highlighter. I got a pink highlighter. Okay. So there's my week. That was last week. Now, if it's highlighted in pink, it means it didn't get done. And naughty Andrew, you got to put that to the next day. If it's green, it means I got it done. There's too much pink on that sheet. And now, like, forget about it. Monday this week, this week was a write-off, an absolute write-off. So I start off my day. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because, I start off my day just going, I'm going to get this done. And I've got to do this, got to do the other, got to do all this stuff. And it consequently doesn't end up getting done. And I feel like heck at the end of the day.
Yeah. Like for me, I haven't taken to motherhood naturally. It's something that I've had to work at and grow and really invest time in. Okay. And I want my career, because I've spent so much time and energy, and this is what I'm good at. This is what I want to do with my life. I want to invest my day and my energy into that, as well as being a mom and a wife and all those sort of things. So I've struggled with getting frustrated because I haven't achieved what I wanted to in a day, that I needed to do in a day to get off the starting block to the next thing that I want to do. So what I found was creating a daily list was setting myself up for failure from the start, because when I made the list, I already knew, something's going to stuff this up. I'm not going to be able to get this done, because inevitably the kid doesn't sleep, the kid's crying, the kid needs something. He's done 5 poops in a row. Like, who does that on this day? Like, come on. And then, just so many little things, and the bloody cat needs something, and then the chickens are, there's just always going to be something that makes it impossible to achieve that list. So I've just settled to doing one list, and that's the list for the week, maybe for the month. And I just do what I can. And if I get 2 or 3 things done in that day, I just prioritize it. So rather than having, okay, I need to do this today so that I can do that tomorrow, and et cetera, it becomes a little bit more of a forgiving process on myself, which inevitably is more forgiving for the kids. So I'm able to be a little bit more fluid, I think, with the day, that it flows. So I flow from, okay, I need to change the kid's nappy, and then it's going to have a nap, or then I'm going to feed him, and then we're just going to come back into the studio, and what's next on my list, I'll have a look at that. And then we just slowly chit. And then at the end of the day, maybe I've gotten 2, 3, 5 things done, or maybe one day I will only get 1 nothing done, but there's no resentment at the end of the day. I think the thing that was burning me out with having two kids, like you think one takes up time. Having two kids,
Yeah.
just
I shudder. Yeah, the thought of it. Yeah.
And the toddler, she's told me she's everyone's manager. So she comes in and she not only needs stuff, she dictates. But so having that freedom to forgive myself at the end of the day that I haven't gotten things done, it makes me a better parent. And it makes me inevitably a better wife, because now my husband's coming home and I'm not all tense. Like now I've got to get dinner done. Now I got to go get the kids in the bath, and now I got to go put them to bed. And now I've only got 3 hours before I'm going to crash. And now I need to get all these things done. So there's a complete peace around the process of the day. And it's not a hostile environment anymore for my husband to come home to. So, and you just, it's just the time that we have at the moment with the kids. It's not going to be like this forever.
For sure.
For 5 years, probably till they go to school. But so understanding that you can forgive yourself in this time, because it is such a unique period of life and it's such a short period of life. So not creating artwork for me for half a year, it was, you can imagine it's jarring, because this is that's what I wanted to do. But eventually, I had to get myself to the point where I could let it go and it didn't destroy me. But it was like this little niggle on me, like, you haven't painted today. And it's just like, that's okay. I'm adapting. It's just a season. He will start daycare soon. And then I'm going to come in with a hopefully more inspired, more ambitious plan than where I was. So now, like, if I had carried on the road I was on before going on to maternity leave, I would have burned out and I would be in a worse place here now today than I am after having just adapted and just said, okay, you know what? No one's going to hate me for not getting as much done. People get it. Like, the only person that's driving this insanity is myself. So yeah, that's what's worked for me.
It's interesting because, you know, when we talked a lot about social media last time, and because I've seen you on Instagram, even over these spells where you know, you went through a dry spell creatively, and you maybe you weren't producing work in the studio, but I don't think from the outside looking in, anybody got a sense of that, because there was always something new there that was keeping Carla Grace and her artwork fresh in people's minds. And
her name is Emily.
Yeah,
she's 2.5 years old.
Right. You know, but that was you were always on my Instagram feed. I'm like, far out. You know, you're posting away. This is great. But wow, that must have been quite difficult. And I must say as well, like, it's going to be very different for a mother than it is a father. I'm sure, just generally speaking. Okay, but you know, I've had, you know, my partner, and far out, my hat goes off to any single parents out there, but I've had my Rachel being able to take,
I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, most of that, and especially with more than one kid.
Incredible.
You know, but there's something about these social media platforms, you know. So the person that I end up presenting at the end of that daily list is myself. It's nobody else. Like, I'm really beating myself up going, oh, you piece of crap, you didn't end up getting everything off your list. But then I remember I remember looking at this, this was very recently, just looking at the list and kind of going, oh, I didn't get it done. And then I just went, hang on a second. I'm the boss. I don't have to do anything. I don't, you know, I like,
that's it.
No one's breathing down my neck going, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? But this is the weird thing about social media, right? And building your own online business and being the person who's pushing this along, is you create this monster that needs to continually eat. And if you're not able to feed it, it starts eating a piece off of you. And then it ends up wearing you down. And I find that I get myself into these situations where I end up doing too much, overcommitting, pushing myself. And I get people like commenting going, Andrew, I don't know how you find time for all of this. This is incredible. I'm like, you see these bags? They're,
Yeah.
it always ends up coming at a cost, physically and all sorts of things. But this is why I enjoy picking your brain about this and other artists too. Is like, okay, that idea of balance or that idea of scheduling, that idea of routine. I love how you found that, like, and how you're, let's just say, finding that, because I can very much tell that it's a process, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's like a tide. It just ebbs and flows. It just changes with the day. It's
Yeah.
just
That's
hard to
it's
grasp. Yeah.
So this new series for you, these paintings, are still blown away that you're able to do something that is that detailed in 5 or 6 hours. That's incredible. Can we get a little bit technical here
Yeah.
on the podcast? Because I do love the life stuff, the business stuff, the work stuff, and sometimes podcasts, I think in general, particularly art podcasts, they focus more on the art, but I always really want to know about the artist. But let's get a little bit technical. Can you run through that process? Because I'm dying to know. Every time I pick up the brush, 30 hours later, I'm still working on the dang thing.
In the same spot. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think this only works because it's acrylic and
Okay.
I'm able to just work layer after layer after layer without any dry time. I prep all the panels together at the same time. And I get the frames made ahead of time as well. So these all come with a little frame that's been made by a framer, and I just throw them straight after they've been varnished straight into the frame, and then they go to their collector straight away. So it's a very streamlined process from the start. Beautiful. So there's no, wherever I can streamline it, that's what I do. So the backgrounds, I give them all a neutral gray to start with. They're not white when I start painting. I do very loose sketches with a chalk pastel pencil that always ends up changing as I paint. And it's just, I start undertone, whatever the undertone is, and then what I call an opacity layer. So I sketch the detail very loosely. I tend to favor using bigger brushes, so like a filbert, size 4 filbert, even a flat, a square little flat one. And then I'll only come in and do the round size 0 details at the end. So I'm starting to use more broad. I'm not looking at the very fine details. I'm looking at how to get the impression of the detail rather than each individual one. And I think you did a tutorial once, how to paint a bird or something on YouTube, where you've done the bulk of the animal and then you're just adding some flicks of, and that just, the highlights, I think the highlights are the key that bring in that punch of the idea that there's detail there without actually having painfully painted each element of that detail. Yeah. So the key for these is getting the eyes right. So I do spend like a full hour out of the 5 hours on getting the eyes to look right, because as soon as you've got the realness in the eyes, the rest of the detail sort of just automatically matches it or melts away. It just sort of all blends. So I do focus on the eyes a little bit more, and like if there's a more key feature like on the kookaburra, the beak, that one took a little bit more time, and then the rest of the detail, like I could spend another 5 hours at least on this little 8x8 portrait and still not be where I would want to be if I was doing a main portrait. But it's also teaching me when to look back and say, that's actually enough, and move on. So it just teaches different little ways of looking at the layers as well. So I'll skip out. There might not be as much depth and volume in like the feathers or the fur, but you can sort of create the illusion that it's there just by doing those odd little highlighting just punches that create that distance. That's what I found anyway. But I definitely, I don't think I'll be able to do it in oils, because there's just, you've got that dry time. I'd have to do the entire body of the little mini ones at the same time. So you do one underpainting for each one, and then you come back and you do the next layer, which wouldn't work because I filmed the whole process too. So it's all in the same position. Right. And then, I don't think I'd be able to do all the little things at the same time, just for the filming and editing side of things. So
It's amazing because you're not only doing, original art, making sales there, working that as a business, but you're also doing the whole online thing, the video side of things. Now,
yeah.
when we first started talking, you weren't doing very much video. It was mainly for social media, but how's your video
Yeah.
journey going now, and where's it
Yeah,
taking you?
it's always a work in progress. I'm always trying to get more cinematic, I think, because people are they love to see progression in a post, so that it's almost like being part of a story. So like DIY pages grow very quickly, very fast, because you see a crappy chest of drawers and they work really hard, and by the end of it they've got this beautiful transformation. So people like to see progress, success. They like to see things, beautiful things coming out of nothing, essentially, I guess. So I found that I can do that because I'm not able to do the whole one painting in an entire day without these minis. I've revolved it around a bigger story. So the story of my journey, I guess, as an artist, bringing in more video elements than it was before. And people, they are more attracted to good quality footage and beautiful things to look at the end of the day. People like to see nice things to watch. So if I'm able to create better quality videos, it doesn't matter if it's only a 5-second video. If it's something beautiful, just even in the cinematic way that it's filmed or photographed, the content itself doesn't have to be as heavy content. It doesn't have to be so full as it does have to be beautiful. So I found that there's a lot more success if it's a really beautiful photograph, just of me standing at the easel with Will, and it's just a moment in time. People love the candid appearance. They'll always love something that looks more natural to something more staged. So I've started to try and incorporate beauty in the way that I'm filming and photographing, rather than beauty in the things that I'm photographing, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. And so, okay, so for I'd love to pick your brain on how to make things look more cinematic. I really struggle with that. Like I've got a professional editor who helps me put all the videos together. I'm doing all the filming though. And a lot of my filming, I'm going to admit, sucks. Like I try and focus on, okay, I'm just going to try and get everything in focus at least, but I don't have any of that really cool, like bokeh or bokeh, whatever you call it, like that short depth of field, or those beautiful movements and stuff. And some of my videos, it is just not cinematic. It's pretty dry. Um, so I'm very blessed to have the followers that I have, but man, I could really use some help there, getting it to look more cinematic.
For me, I think the only thing that I really rely on to get that cinematic, that soft focus, would be my the lens that I use on a daily basis. So I use a Sigma. So the camera body is a Canon 5D Mark IV. So it's a really good body, but you can use. It doesn't matter. So
I'm writing this
on my
down
iPhone,
right now. I'm writing this down. Okay.
On my iPhone, if I'm going to take a photograph of something, I'll switch it to portrait mode. So it automatically gives you that crisp portrait with the blurred background. And on my lens, do you want me to get the camera? I'll just grab the camera and show you the lens.
Yeah, come on. Show and tell for this podcast. I love this.
All right. So this is my beautiful Canon.
Beautiful.
And this lens, this one is what gives me that soft cinematic. It is a Sigma lens, so it's not the fancy Canon. It's just a Sigma 50 millimeter with a f-stop of 1.4. So getting the lowest f-stop possible is sort of the key to getting that soft. So it doesn't zoom in, it doesn't zoom out, it doesn't give you a wide depth of field. It just has that set focal range, and that's why it's able to get that very
perfect
low f-stop.
Perfect.
And that enables you to get.
I'm getting that
it's
lens.
It's a beautiful lens. I love it to bits.
Fantastic. Okay.
And
that's so because I shoot Canon as well, and that's just one thing that I've noticed from some of your posts on social media. I'm like, they just look so good, and I think therein this was the thing that I learned from you in the first couple of podcasts. And I apologize to the people listening to this, going, Andrew, you are all over the map in this interview. What's going on? I'm just an artist. I'm not a professional at this. What are you doing here? Okay, so basically, one thing that I learned from you was learning the ecosystem, learning the ins and outs of whatever platform that you're posting on and fitting into that ecosystem. Like, okay, if there's a particular way that it's going, it's like, okay, I still hear your voice in my head going, what time of day are you posting that? Right. Think about where your target audience is and fit in with that time of day. If you're making a post, don't go making a post at lunchtime in New Zealand when everybody's asleep in LA. That doesn't make any sense. So, but one of these other things as well is that the quality of what you're posting is top notch. And I get so many people asking all the time. It's like, they want to blow up on social media. They want to make an impact. They want to make it as a professional. They want to attract clients. But for some reason, it's just not landing. It's just not clicking into place. So maybe let me just back up just a little bit here, Carla, and just really, if you don't mind, for the people listening, there are a lot of people that are in that position. Maybe they've got a good product. Maybe they're right at that precipice, right at the cusp of just going pro, just starting to make a few extra bucks online by selling their art. What are some of the things that you would recommend doing? That's a really good one, by the way, just starting there with the quality of their posting. But what are some of the other things that you would recommend, for just helping them leap into this?
To leap into it? I'd say it's more of a slow crawl rather than a leap.
Okay, I'm a little gung ho. Like, let's go. Yeah.
Let's jump. And then it's like, okay, wait, we still have to do this and this and this, and then we can jump. So
where's your parents?
If you don't have a website in today's online platform, you're not gonna get off the start block. The website, so you've got all these different streams. You've got Facebook, YouTube, Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok now, NFTs, the online, there's so many different streams. And the problem with having different streams is if they're not coming from a central source, it's just gonna be like spaghetti in a bowl. It's just gonna go all over the place. Nothing's gonna link. It's just all gonna be just a mess. Like just like my brain on zero sleep. It's just all spaghetti and just in there. So having a website creates the central hub that is just like, those really cool electrical display things where it's like there's this ball and you touch the glass on the outside and you get this like zzz. That's what I see in my head when you have a website. It's like the central contact.
Great analogy.
You can go Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can go, everything is from there. And then even on all those, they go straight back in. So you always have a link to your website. It has your update contact details, and keeping it maintained and updated is obviously essential to all the other outlets working. So there are awesome template sites such as Wix is what I use. Squarespace is pretty much artist focused for creating portfolios, and probably 100 other ones. Those two seem to be the main key players for template website building. So you don't have to be able to code. I have no idea how to code. And my website it's a constant evolving thing. So it's like changing the decor in your room. It's like, I'm going to update that. So it's starting, you move with the time. So obviously the first website that I designed when I first started, it's nowhere near where it is now. So when I had Emily, I just obviously was in a new space and I wanted everything redone. So I hired Wix and Squarespace. They all have professionals that they can outsource design to, and you can say, hey, I want a website that does this and this and this. So you don't even have to do the building. You just say, here's some files, make it pretty for me. I want it to do all these different things. And they come back and you pay, I think it cost me like $250, and she just redesigned my entire website, like with the content already there. She just added all these anchor points, and so it flowed. And obviously creating a website that you can view on your mobile in a really seamless way, because I think what my stats were, 89% of my website traffic is from mobile.
There
and
it is.
It's only like 3 or 4% is desktop. So
that
if it's not mobile friendly.
Yeah. When I heard that depressed me so much, and I found out my website sucked on mobile. So I had to make some changes there. And it's still, I mean, it's not, well, I've got to be careful what I say here, because Rachel actually built my website. So love you. If you're listening, but no, but we're looking at making that change as well. So, and I got to say, I love that analogy. I just saw that electrical ball thing in a Nigel Stanford Cymantics video clip, kind of cool. But yeah, I remember that as a kid. You touch the thing and the spark comes up to follow wherever your finger is, and then you got to imagine like you've got all these other offshoots from that central hub. I need to revisit my website. Okay, so that's a starting point. Having a place where people can find you online and make sure that is working. And so you're also saying keep it current, keep it fresh, keep it current, keep evolving with it. Okay,
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, not having a Hotmail address for people to contact you on is also another thing. The amount of professional artists or just people with their own businesses that still have a Hotmail or a Gmail account. It's not, so for example, straight away I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have an email that is carla@carlagraceart.com. Like just having that clean, and it's $50 a year to have your own domain, which you can get through, like I have my domain through Wix. So it's all like Wix. I don't know Squarespace, so I can't really promote that, and I have nothing to, like, I'm not sponsored by Wix. This is just, I love the platform. They even have all the Facebook, Instagram advertising platforms through, so their background, it links everything together. So it's not like you're having to then have all these different outlets. You can do everything through the website host. I think that's the name for it. I don't know. So it's provided me with a domain name, and having that professional email address, it's just sharp. It's just a little extra, not a
Well, you own this space. It's you. It's part of your brand, isn't it? I mean, so and I've got Andrew at andrewtischler.com, although I do use a couple of other emails as well. But we should be careful giving our emails out on the podcast.
Say hi. I don't mind. I reply to emails.
I mind.
I like to be contactable.
Don't bug me. No. But it's really quite interesting having that central hub. Okay, so then social media is one of those things then that feeds off of that. So if that's your central thing, all those offshoots are things that so ultimately, is it your goal then that ultimately people find their way back to the website? That's the call to action on everything. Okay.
Everything. Yeah. So it's where I have all the payment options so it's where people go to find more details on paintings they're interested in, limited editions, the limited edition book that I designed, it's all there, all the tutorials, all the free video, all the content, it's all there. Although I have been a bit slack on the free tutorials, so it's work in progress for me as well. But all the key things is what I keep there, because if people are looking, I'm really interested in that painting, and they're looking through and they're like, here's some information about other things, and it's it can take them on a journey. So the problem with social media platforms is you're limited to the format of that platform. So like now Instagram, the format has changed and people are wanting more portrait videos and things that fills up the whole screen. Whereas before it was square, and Facebook and YouTube, they're all landscape. So you've got now different formats for different platforms that it's just, so something you post on YouTube doesn't fly as well on Instagram like it used to because it's just a different layout, or something you post on Instagram because it's a reel, it doesn't post to Facebook because that doesn't cross the platform. So it's just, it's a website is just somewhere where you can put everything and people can find, like that post you did ages ago where you were talking about how to prime panels, and just send them straight to the website. It's way easier than having to scroll through pages and pages and pages on Facebook or Instagram. It's just straight there. It's like a straight road rather than a winding, hilly experience.
I tell you who gets more out of these podcasts than anybody else. It's me. I mean, again, okay, so there's another takeaway right there. The first takeaway for me, by the way, like right out of the gates, was efficiency comes from confidence. I wrote that down, by the way, just going back a little bit. I think that's great. But
you can put that on a bumper sticker.
I think you could, actually. I think you could, or a t-shirt. Ooh, I've got some merch ideas. Is that trademarked, Carla? I'm
no,
gonna
that's
steal.
Free. Anyone, you're welcome to it.
Okay, dibs. Okay, it's mine. Now, this is really interesting. So I made a little bit of an announcement recently in a newsletter that I'm now on TikTok, and what I did is I said to, hey, follow me here, kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I finally, embraced this medium and this idea. And so you can find me here at the address. And I got this one email back, and this guy was like, do not sign up for TikTok. Read this article here. They're spying on you or something like that. And I was just like, dude, first of all, I'm not even going to read that. I'm not going to do it. I don't care. They already have my name on a list somewhere. I was talking to Rachel about pizza ovens. I was like, I'd really like to get a pizza oven out there on the grass, and we'll carve out a little stone circle and make it all nice. And let's have an outdoor area where we can have pizza and stuff. Advertisements start coming up on our phone for pizza ovens. I'm like, you're already on a dang list. All right. So this is the thing is embracing some of these new social media platforms as a way to, and use them as a way to leverage your art business. But I'm wondering, is there a point where it goes too far for you, where it's like, no, this is taking either too much of my time, or it's too invasive, or I just do not like this at all?
Yeah. So I gauge whether or not I'm doing too much by my patience with my children. So if I have very small amount of patience just with life in general outside, because I'm just trying to do so many things, then it's time to dial back, because my family feed off my energy. And I think it's not mum or a dad thing. I think it's a primary, if you're a primary caregiver, you know that how you are, how your internal health is, affects the mood and the setting and how the day unfolds. It's all up to you. So Emily will feed off my anxiety. Like if I have high stress levels, she'll feed off that, and she will demand more attention from me because she feels like I'm not present there with her. So so I just have to, if I'm spreading myself too thin, then it tends to show in the day. So then I need to dial back. That's why I had to stop and take maternity leave when Will wasn't sleeping, because I wasn't sleeping. So I wasn't able to function properly in the day. And now with me coming back to work, I'm suddenly like, there is a whole new world out there with NFTs, and, TikTok is exploding. I should have joined years ago. But it's just, when I start to dig into that and I find myself getting overwhelmed, then I'm like, okay, just take one thing at a time. Just start painting. You've only just started back at work. Just start with one thing. That's how you climb a mountain. It's just one step at a time. So eventually I think I will do all those things, but just probably not all at once. So I've found that once something just becomes part of routine, it's no longer a massive issue. So if I start using TikTok as a platform, I will just focus on maintaining what I've got and investing myself into the new thing until that just becomes part of the clutter of my day. And it's not something that is taking away from everything else. So I think that's how I gauge is whether or not something is causing me distress at the end of the day. Right. If it's a negative thing in my life, then it needs to go. But if it's something that pushes me and challenges me, then that's different. That's different to a negative. It's something new, something exciting, something I want to invest myself in, then I will pursue that. And usually the excitement and the height of that new thing, that again feeds the family and everyone gets this excited energy because now mum's doing something that she loves, she's into, and now they're all subconsciously, I guess, they pick up on it and it just becomes another part of the day. So yeah, I just gauge and see how it's affecting my ability to parent.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really interesting one because, you know, I guess I'm the same in a way. Like nobody wants to be around grumpy Andrew, and a lot of this does affect, you know, my mood. But when I'm hitting it just right, I'm a lot nicer to be around. But I kind of exist at that boundary of and I build a lot of pressure into my business personally, just pressure on myself. You know, with the podcast, I decided when I started the podcast back up again, I'm like, I got to make it weekly. I've got to make it a weekly show. And then I was saying to my editor, Liam, you know, we're going to come back to YouTube weekly. And I said, oh yeah, and I'm going to start another 2 videos and we're going to do those weekly as well. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He's like, you mean he said, we're doing a video every 2 weeks, if that. And now you want to do three a week. I'm like, well, now it's actually a piece of content on Patreon, a podcast, 3 YouTube videos. I haven't been able to do it yet, but that's the new line for me. And I'm building pressure into my business in terms of these online platforms and I'm skating that line between so much pressure I collapse under the weight or I get stronger holding all this up. I don't know where I'm at right now. I'm probably so heavily caffeinated that I just can't tell. You know, YouTube actually removed the dislike button, which is really kind of weird. And I get why they would have done that from a political standpoint. We won't go there, but that's fine. But I and again, people know that I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, so that's cool. But I get to see who's liking and disliking the videos, and I'm hovering somewhere around the 99%, which is awesome. And I'm so grateful for the people that are commenting, that are, you know, hitting that like button. And, you know, but what I really live for is those moments where somebody was like, not just, I like the video and that was cool, but that was really helpful. When you asked Carla Grace that question and she had that answer, thank you for providing that opportunity for, you know, awesome artists like yourself or Joe Paquette, you know, for instance, or Talia Stanton, or these people that are just out there just smashing it. And just, that's why I'm doing it. But I got to say that even that positive reinforcement and that feedback, that kind of does build that pressure, even though it's in a very positive way. And I'm still skating that balance, you know, okay, so do I collapse under the weight or am I getting stronger? I don't know yet. I'm in too much of a frazzled dizzy to actually know exactly where I'm at. I'm all over the map, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally can relate to that. Absolutely. So I think I was searching for a way to fill the gaps because I'm not able to create as much artwork on a daily basis like I used to. So I've started doing this sort of segment, I guess you could call it that, on my stories, which is called Save My Painting, which I was doing privately with people. They would send me photos of their painting and say, hey, I'm really stuck on this. And I would give them a few tips privately. And I was like, well, why don't I make this? I'm sure there are other people that could use the advice that I'm giving this one person. So I said to people, I just said, hey, I'm doing a Save My Painting new thing. Send me a photograph of your painting that you're really struggling with and the reference photo, and tell me what you need help with. And so now, just like a very casual format on my phone, I just use my Procreate iPad tablet, and I just do a couple sketches over their painting, and I say, hey, maybe this will help, and I show them bits and pieces from the tutorials that I've created, and say, this is what I mean when I say, when you do the glaze over the underpaint, like, you know, that sort of thing. And then I just post that, and then you get the feedback and says, hey, this is really great, and we really appreciate that you're doing this. And I do it, and at first I was like, okay, maybe I can do them once a week, and I found that I can actually do them twice a week, just because it's a more relaxed format. I'm not making it this polished, cinematic, beautiful video. So I've taken the pressure off that outlet, and there's a lot of intrinsic value in it for me, because these people are saying that actually got me out of this artist block that I've been stuck in for the past 2 months with this painting. And that to me is really worth it, because it wasn't the person that I was directly helping, it was someone else who has seen that thing. So yeah, that's, I completely understand when you say just those comments, and it's, now I feel like, oh, I could do one a day. Just like, whoa, like chill out.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's where my dumb brain goes. It's like, oh, I did that. That worked. Let's do one a day. Let's do that. It's absolutely ridiculous. But if people watching the video version, they could see my schedule right there. But on there, like I've got a whole list of videos that I really want to do, and then I've got the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way to Saturday, and every single day has got something that I'm putting out there. But just on a side note, so, and again, sorry, really about what you're talking about there with the critiques, that's brilliant. I found that was such a really cool way to engage with my people that were following me on Patreon, is drawing directly over the tops of their paintings. I sometimes I take it a little bit too far, but I really enjoy it, and people seem to really enjoy that too. But it's extraordinary, just how I find that I'm finding my voice a lot more the more I bring other people into it, and sharing that more with people, you know?
Being more transparent and open.
A little bit,
Because the art world has the habit of keeping everything close to the chest, like, oh, I don't want to share with you, you're my competition. But the more you share, the more people are invested in what you do. So the more free content you give out. So for example, like you do paid tutorials, you have the Patreon page where people pay. People wouldn't trust your content that they can't see. They have to pay first to see. They wouldn't trust that without the free content that you make available on all your platforms. So I mean, when marketing first started on TV, people would only have to see things 5 times to trust it, whereas now with social media, they have to see things 20 to 30 times before they trust the product.
Is that right? Is that that's an actual wow?
That's a statistic. So
so
the
culturally,
exposure you have to give yourself. We don't trust people. We don't trust products. We don't trust brands. We don't trust unless we have seen it over and over and over again. That's why people use influencers. They use it in movies. They put it in and they spread their product out in as many avenues as they can get, because people have to see it on repeat to be like, okay, no, I can trust that one. We'll do that. Wow. It's just because it's just overload. There's just so much to take in. People just, they'll let it go. If it hasn't made an impression within the first 1.5 seconds, they'll go to the next video. If they don't see it on repeat, if it's not something they're familiar with, they won't go for it. If it's something that looks low budget, they won't go for it.
Fair enough. Okay. Wow. That's so interesting. It's amazing that culturally we've all, and it's all, we seem to have a global culture now. It's all pretty much getting mixed into the same culture, the same mass. I mean, yes, people have their unique cultural background, you know, not to put that down, but it just seems like everything is becoming westernized and Hollywoodified, you know, in that way, isn't it? We're all listening to the same music, they're watching the same stuff, and I'm trying not
Yeah.
to though. I'm still trying to stay away from it, but that's fascinating. That I don't know if I really want to contribute to that. I don't want to put that stuff out there so
Mm,
much, like because I tell you where I'm at.
yeah.
I've got a marketing company that is advertising some of my tutorials and stuff for me. And people are like, I see you on my phone all the time. I'm like, well, I haven't made a post in a long time. But then I forget
Yeah.
I've got this company that's put out these
Mm,
video ads, and they're like,
yeah.
dude, you're always on my feed. I'm like, sorry about that. I'm really
Sorry.
sorry.
But that's why, like I was saying before, creating content that is genuine and candid rather than scripted and like buy my stuff, buy my stuff. People aren't attracted to that. They're attracted to the story, and then people will latch onto something that is a point of interest and they will investigate. So I never hawk my junk on social media. I'm never saying, buy my painting, it's available, buy it, buy it, buy it. Because if people like my stuff, they're going to say, hey, is that available? I would like to buy it. And that's where the conversation comes in, more personal one-to-one, rather than, hey, everybody, pay attention to me. I've got stuff for sale. People are like, oh, who's that jerk? Like, we do it. I don't want to see people shit for sale. Like when I'm on my social, I'm doing things that I want to do. I'm looking at things that I want to see. So if my promotion, if my marketing is really genuine and it's another post that I posted and it's got my art in it, it's got my kids in it, I've got these new limited edition books that I created. I spent months designing the frame that opens up around this book and getting companies to work with me on creating this book. I've spent over a year on this thing. I don't promote, hey, buy my book, because if people like it, if people like my stuff, they're going to investigate my brand, my company, my website, which is key.
Yeah.
So I need to just, the overarching story of all my outlets has to be engaging in a way that will make people investigate further. And that's got to be natural. And that's really hard to achieve, that natural promotional balance. And it comes along with the conversation and just the narrative of your social media. I think it comes in slowly.
I chuckle to myself because again, I just feel a little bit embarrassed that I maybe have done that a little bit too much with the tutorials.
Oh, we all have.
But
you see,
you're
have
quite
to.
right. Yeah.
You got to experiment because different things will work for different products. Some things you have to say, hey, I've got this. This is what it does. You need this. Like detergents and disinfectants and tools that fix things, like, things that are new. But like when it comes to things that people don't need, like art isn't an essential product. People don't buy it out of necessity. They buy it out of love and attachment and an emotional engagement with not only the art, but with the artist these days. It's a conversation that they have, a relationship that grows from just an interest that they have in something that they've seen you do. So then going into their face, hey, I've also got this, buy this. They're going to be like, oh, that's not why I'm following you. And then they're going to pull back a little bit because it's too much. So that's what I found with my followers. Every artist is different. So if an artist is more merch orientated, so you get a lot of artists, they do really cute mugs and those sort of things. So more merchy artists will be a little bit more promotional on the wares that they create. But for my narrative, my story that I'm telling, it's not about sales. It's that obviously I'm an artist, obviously, like it's obvious that this is what I do full time. So it goes without saying that I would be selling my art. So all they have to do is send me a message and then they get a personal response back from me directly. So there's a very personal engagement with people that are interested in what I create.
Very cool. Right.
Yeah.
So we need the central hub. We need a website that we continually, no, this is gold. We need a website that we continually maintain and upgrade and kind of keep current. And then our social media platforms, we're sensitive to and I'm hearing that we've got to kind of fit in with not only the culture of the platform itself as an ecosystem, but also really pay attention to who's following us and
Yeah.
posting within that kind of vein
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the people of what you bring.
Absolutely.
Because I found, and I'll just personally speaking, I found that there's a disconnect with my business. I
Mm.
I've got an original paintings business. I'm a painter first and foremost. I'm an artist. I produce big oil paintings, and
Mm.
they sell to a particular clientele. And
Mm.
if I had to draw it as a Venn diagram, the overlap is very small, very, very small between the
Absolutely.
people
Yeah.
that follow me online and who's actually buying my paintings. The people buying me
Yeah.
my
It's
paintings
less,
are,
it's something like less than 1% of your
oh,
followers will
yeah.
actually invest money in what you create.
And
Yeah. So being
that's,
aware that
yeah.
people aren't always going to buy, just
Mm.
post to the masses, and then that small 1% is where you get your, yeah.
And that's so interesting as well, that my business is based on that 1%. And
Mm.
even buying buying the tutorials, most of the people that are watching the YouTube stuff, they're like, okay, well, that was a really cool video, I'll buy the tutorial. That's about
Mm.
1.5 to 2%. You know,
Yeah.
where for a little
Yeah.
while there, we were converting about 2.5%. And somebody was like, that's really good, that's amazing. Like 2.5%. Wow. I'm like, really? I was depressed. I thought this sucked. I thought, and this is the interesting thing. And I've heard, this almost as an undertone behind a lot of people that are posting their work online. It's like, well, I made a post on Facebook. Why isn't it viral yet? You know,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
expecting the to be the next thing. So if people aren't really finding that they're getting that traction with their posts,
Mm.
with their social media presence, or even if it's not really landing in terms of their website, what would you say to
Yeah.
them to kind of maybe not give up hope quite so soon? Because it can be quite deflating being online as
It
well. Let's
can be
face it.
very
Yeah.
deflating. So, see, I haven't ever created anything that's gone viral. I haven't had a big spotlight moment on social media. I think hoping for that is where the disappointment comes in. So let go of wanting that instant fame, because that doesn't last, even if it does happen to you. And just go for slightly more views on the next one. Just focus on seeing slow growth rather than these a million new followers. You know, that happens to people like The Rock and celebrities, because they're in so many different avenues and so many people are seeing them, that they then naturally they get these viral things that happen on their account. So I think letting go of that for the everyday artist that just trudges along, don't lose yourself in the fickle, temporary world of social media. If you stay true to yourself, I think that's the key, because as soon as you start marketing to the masses, you sell yourself in a way that you'll burn out, and you'll start you'll start performing in a world that will just eat you up and spit you out 1 second later. So it's the nature of the game. There is so much content and there are so many people creating that content, expecting or hoping for a moment in the spotlight. You're sort of setting yourself up for disappointment, because, I mean, if it happens, that's wonderful, that's incredible. But that being the goal is not a realistic sort of bar to measure yourself against. I think if you're going to keep tabs, then just watch, did this post get more views or less views? Why did it get less views? Was it the time that I posted it? Is it the content? Is it the way I filmed it? Did the sequence of clips, were they too long? Did people lose their interest because it was a 3-second clip rather than a 1.5-second clip? Didn't move quick enough? Mm-hmm. Like, there are so many other things to look at other than it didn't go viral. Like, what's wrong with me? There's so many things to look at when you create a post. Did it get more followers? Did it get more views? Did it get more likes? Did it get less than the last one? And then you just look at post by post, and then slowly you start to develop a language with your followers, and it just sort of happens naturally rather than something you have to force out of yourself.
And I think, yeah, you just said something there as well, like again, I'm reminded of this. It really isn't a numbers game, is it? It's really not. What I tend to gravitate towards is I want to genuinely engage with people. So having genuine engagement with a handful of people where it made an impact with just a handful versus just having a very surface level engagement, but with a vast number of people, I prefer to go for that quality really, and have some sort of impact with them rather than go after numbers. Because at the end of the day, the numbers thing, it is quite a hollow thing, isn't it?
It is hollow. That's a double-edged sword. So it's hollow in terms of the general amount of people. They won't send you a private message. They won't engage with you. So you do need numbers to get taken seriously on social media, unfortunately. So by brands, by companies, by galleries, by anyone that's looking for an artist that has the exposure that they want to leverage off, you need the numbers for. So it depends if you want to play the influencer game and get paid for posts and things like that. That's a completely different business model. But if you have a great following, so at the start I had maybe 4,000 or 5,000 followers and I was selling every painting weekly. So it depends what your goal is with your followers. If you're focused on you're loving the interaction you have with a small number of followers and your sales are great, because obviously at the end of the day you need to eat. So if you have 50,000 followers, no one's buying, that's not gonna make it possible for you to be an artist. So it just depends what you're wanting to get out of that platform, and adapting to that. There's so many variables.
So in terms of revenue streams, do you mind me asking you this then about, because as an artist working today, there are so many different ways to make an income. And as I was talking to Talia Stanton about, and I've said this several times in podcasts, as well as hearing from other artists, a lot of artists share this point of view that there's never been a better time to be an artist. I know the world is a weird place right now. I know there's a lot of stuff going on and not all of it good, but still there are things that we have at our fingertips that make this such a cool journey and the potential for us to derive an income. So for you, if you don't mind personally speaking to this, you sell original paintings and you've got prints. I hear that there's a book as well. Are there other ways that you're making money from your art online?
So for me, it's a very simple thing. I don't usually make prints of my work unless the collector of the original negotiates on the price to the point where I'm like, okay, I can negotiate on the price under the condition that I run limited edition prints of that painting. So it's up to the collector of a painting whether or not I do prints of that painting. I do a limited edition coffee table book, which isn't a coffee table book. It's actually an artwork that is a book that you can change the pages to daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. And it sits behind a frame that opens and closes and
show me
on your wall.
Show me that. What?
Can I do a pause there?
Course,
My son's just awake, so he's going to join in for the rest of it. I'll just be
perfect.
2 minutes.
Perfect. No worries.
Hello.
Hey, little man.
And you go.
All right. So we're now joined on the podcast by young Will has joined us, and he's going to be here online sharing some airtime with his mom.
He'll be doing some Q&As later.
Some Q&As. Okay, great. There's a few things I want to ask him. Wow. How old is Will?
10 months.
10 months. All right. Hey, man. How you doing? Hello. This is so cool. At the last podcast, we were joined by Emily, and that was really cool too. It's a real family thing with you. This is great. I love it.
It's what I have to offer. That's it. I'm not going to get anything else from me.
We're not. No, listen, I love it, Carla. We are not complaining, not by a long stretch.
Oh,
this is
funny. Okay, so this bloody book of mine, I spent like 18 months working with different companies to try and take my idea from, everything was designed. So anyway, managed to find my framers. One of their guys has just this real can-do attitude, and he's like, hey, yeah, we can make that. It's going to be a pain in the butt, but we're going to make it. So each frame is made by hand. What do you reckon, Will? So it's book 1.
Wow.
So that means there's going to be a book 2 eventually, and 3 and 4, hopefully. Wow. And I'm just doing limited edition runs of these because they're handmade. It's not one of those, you can't do endless amounts of them. So it's hinged at the top because I wanted something that was going to last. So it's not hinged on the side like a book. So this puts less pressure on the hinges, and it opens up. It's designed from 3 separate frames. One is inverted to hold the book, and it's held by magnets in the bottom. And that opens up to give us access to a book, and a little ribbon lifts it up.
That's extraordinary. Okay, just hang on. So I just want to pause. So a lot of people are listening to the audio version of this podcast, and so and you've described it very well. But we're looking at something inside a perspex or a glass frame.
It's glass. So
okay.
It's glass because perspex is very static, and because this is going to be open and closed a lot, there's going to be a lot of dust flow, and perspex likes to hold on to dust. So glass
you thought
is
about
easier
every
to clean.
angle.
Every angle, but it's insane the amount of details that has gone into this thing. So
okay, let's dive deeper. This is great.
So it's an oak frame. So it's a natural oak frame with a white inset. So we couldn't go with a cardboard mat thing over the book because it's going to be handled. So everything needs to be washable and it needs to be durable. So that's why it's all frame. Yeah, it's all frame. And the book itself, so it's a handmade book with a embossed gold linen cover.
Yeah.
And it's an edition. So this is book 1. It says Most Loved by Carla Grace. It's an original limited edition display book. You'll find the most loved works I've done in acrylic paint since 2016. So this one is dated, and I've embossed each page, each of the authenticity pages, and they get a certificate that goes with it. And then basically the idea is that you can open up the book. So getting a printing company to do this book oh my gosh. Anyway, so it had to be spiral bound because what we're looking at is the ability to move on to the next page and not have anything fall out, risk of being damaged, and that wouldn't chafe. So ink, unfortunately, when you get fine art paper printed, the ink is on top of the page rather than sealed within the fibers. So this one is the best quality paper that I can get for doing these prints, and it's archival and all that sort of stuff. And then it's got a coating on top of it that stops it from smudging or all that bleeding through, fading, all that sort of stuff. So these can all be turned, and there's 23 images in there, and you can basically choose whatever image you want to look at, open it back up.
And genius. Okay. So for the people,
and then you've got a new artwork. So you've got 23 different artworks that you can turn to whenever you want. And so it's a coffee table book that you can put on your wall and you can look at on a daily basis, because everyone was like, you should put all your paintings in a coffee table book. I was like, people don't, they look at the coffee table book and then it goes on the shelf and it catches dust. So I wanted something that people could display and have in their home, and they're like, I want to look at the elephants today, and then change it and they can look at the elephants. So
that is cool.
When these are all
cool.
so these look even better when they're in a series. So that's why there's going to be multiple books of them. So book 2 will be maybe in a year's time, a collection of maybe 10 or 15 paintings that I've done from between now and then.
Okay.
And then you have it next to your book 1, and you've got then eventually this wall full of all this grid that you can then change. And it's like this dynamic, interactive cool. Installation, essentially, that is cool. Not just a print, not just a book, but everything.
I have never, that is such a cool concept. Wow, man, such a cool concept. I've never heard of that before. Okay, so let me ask you then, can we talk nuts and bolts here? Okay, awesome. Yeah. What's the book selling for?
Framed, so I do have an unframed option available. Framed, it has to be like $680, simply because of the value of the making of it. Of course, it's all made by hand. Yep. He has to router the hinges itself has to be seamless. So like everything has to work. So it's
Will
the material cost is so yes, everything. I'm not going to settle for anything that's not going to last at least 20 years. Like I need it to last, and so it's he's distracted. He's like material cost. It costs me $320 to make one. So and then you got shipping and you got taxes and all of that on top of that. So the logistics, like I know that there are versions of these sort of frames available out there, like those things. They're mass made and it's just everything sloppy. I wanted something that was seamless, that on the wall, it just looked like it was an artwork and wasn't like, you don't expect it to be anything else, but then you can do so much more with it. So for my personal preference, I want everything to be absolutely stunning. You touch it, you just feel like it's heavy. It's not
quality. It feels quality.
Yeah, you touch it and you're just like, oh, this is awesome. So that's what I was looking for.
So limited edition of how many?
Of book 1, there will be 300, and book 2, there will be 200. Book 3, there will be 100. So each edition is going to get harder and harder to get. I don't want to be doing these for the rest of my career. That's why
do they get more expensive for the limited supply?
Maybe.
Wow.
It's also because everything is handmade. I'm relying on one guy at the framers to make it. So until I can do the framing in-house, like have a guy working in my studio making these frames for me all day, every day, it's got to be something that has an end to it.
Of course.
And it's just the nature of the product. I don't want it to be this endless supply of, it's just, that's not my business. I don't do open-ended things. These are collectible. They are beautiful. They are hard to make. Stunning. They are really hard to make. And that business structure doesn't work for every artist. They want to be able to say, hey, this is going to be a regular income from now till, but I get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. So I will then, by the time these editions are finished, there will be something else that will be equally, if not more, fantastic. I don't have that something else yet, but it is, I will always be creating more things to
that's awesome.
Stimulate my creativity.
That's so awesome. Okay. So how are the sales going then for the book?
Good, nice and slow. I don't want these to go really fast.
Okay.
Nice
Okay.
and
So
slow,
it's
like
it's
1 or 2 a
manageable.
week.
You're not overwhelming
Yes.
your guy, and so it's just
Yes.
so this is something. Once all of your setup costs are covered, this is something that could just
Mm.
kind of turn over in the background. But the other thing as well, because you're hand signing each and every one of these, that would create a lot of pressure. So I've
It's
got
very
50 books to
hands-on.
sign. It's like,
Exactly. Yeah. When I
yeah.
first released them, I sold the first 50 within 48 hours. So my guy
Wow.
at the framer was like, so I want them to be slow. I'm not in a rush. But that's the whole thing about Carla Grace art. I'm not in a rush to sell things.
Mhm.
If they take a year to sell, that's fine. 2 years, I'm not about the instant sale. I would rather it went to the right buyers, because I don't want to compromise on the quality of my work to get the quantity. He's super cute, but he's so distracting.
He's great. He's great.
Yeah.
So it's just like my little one. My guy, he doesn't have the coordination yet. He's looking at stuff. He wants to grab it, but his hands are going everywhere. He's just too young.
He's still super wobbly. He's trying to pull himself up on things, and he's trying to crawl, but he just face plants or.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And Hugo's very talkative too, but I need a translator for him. Yeah. I don't understand a word he's saying. But,
no, and he looks at you like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Like, yeah, hey, dude.
You mentioned something before, and let me just ask you about this. You mentioned NFTs. Is this a space that you're looking at and something that you're considering moving into?
I think the world of digital art is incredibly exciting. It is so foreign to me. It's like an exotic bird that I've heard tales about, and I just have to see. I have to dabble. I need to give it a go. The things that have trended on NFTs, the things that sell, it just blows my mind. Like, there is no logic to it. Like, it's a world that has its own rules. It has its own, and that's what I love. That's what I'm making up the rules as I go along for my business. Sorry. No.
Hey, listen, it's part of the podcast. I love it. It's a family show. But this is quite interesting, because I was talking to my buddy Samuel Earp about this, and he was saying that there are some of these monkeys on a boat that are selling for hundreds of thousands. Some of them are millions. And it's absolutely mental. And, you know, I resist it. It's all great to be kind of like a Puritan about these things. You go, well, that's stupid. I'm not doing that. But if there's an opportunity there as an artist, why not? Why not? Except I tell you where I am drawing the line. Okay. You mentioned the digital space. I'm staying out of that metaverse. You better stay out of that metaverse. You hear? Don't go down the road.
I've heard of it. It's again a foreign thing. I'm just at the moment, I'm just trying to paint. So to look at the digital world, like I'm hearing all these things, metaverse and NFTs, and I'm like, oh, I have to do that. I have to look into that. And I'm just sort of like, it's in the too hard basket at the moment, but it is like this exotic creature that I am very interested in. And I have Procreate, I have the iPad Pro, I have the smudge proof glove that goes on the 2 fingers, and I've got the magic pencil, and I'm ready for it. It's just the time.
I got one of those.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they?
Mine's a cotton glove where I just took a pair of scissors to it and cut out the bit that actually holds the stylus. But that's perfect. It's perfect. Well, Carla, and I must say as well, Will, thank you both for joining us on the Creative Endeavor. There's always so much to talk to you about. I feel like we've barely even scratched the surface. I'm excited maybe to have you back again one day, hopefully not too long, where we can talk a little bit more about the digital space, because I'd love to hear more about, you know, particularly digital art and NFTs. I'm kind of moving and exploring some of these areas too. Would love to pick your brain about that. But again, just want to say thank you so much. I always so enjoy your company, and there's always so many takeaways, but really appreciate your company. Thank you for being on this episode of the Creative Endeavor.
Thanks for having us. It was really great to talk to you.
Well, Well, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Creative Endeavor Podcast. Big thank you and shout out to Carla Grace for joining me. Again, if you're not already following her, then make sure you do something about that. Go and follow her on Instagram. She can be found at Carla_Grace_art, and also on her website at www.carlagraceart.com. Make sure you check out her fantastic work there and follow what she's doing. I'm sure you're going to be blown away by her work, just as I am. But as you follow and watch what she's doing with her art business, it's sure to give you some ideas there too. I can certainly thank Carla for so many things that I've done in my business personally that have really helped me and paid dividends. She's just a treasure and so generous with her knowledge, so I really appreciate her. Now, if you haven't already done so, then please do me a huge favor and leave me a rating or a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. It makes such a huge difference to the show. I know I keep going on about this, but it really does. It helps me so much get this out to more and more people. So if you got something out of this conversation, if it helped you in some way, or if you've got a new idea that you just want to execute on, then make sure you send some love my way. Just leave me a rating or a review and help more people find out about this show. And also, while you're at it, go ahead and share this on social media. And if you're going to post it to Instagram, use the hashtag #TheCreativeEndeavor or the Creative Endeavor Podcast. Thank you so much for that extra time and effort. I couldn't do this without you, and I really appreciate you. Now, if you want to find out more about me and follow my efforts, then I can always be found on my website. It's kind of the one-stop shop, that one central hub, as we were talking about here in this conversation. I can be found at andrewtischler.com. There you'll find links to my videos, my full tutorials, the podcast, the Patreon page, and all kinds of extra good stuff. All right, I'm going to get out of here and get back to painting. It's been a pleasure as always. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of The Creative Endeavor.